Hello there, we're back. Well, it's winter months are here, and it's no better day than a day for a pot of Sahapan soup, Kim style. Now this recipe basically, it's a long one, a lengthy one, so make sure you have plenty of time when you cook this, and you may want to do your shopping a day or so before to get your items. This recipe is going to take about 20 to 30 minutes prep time, about an hour to 2 hours to cook. Makes 4 to 6 ounce 1 cup servings. And to lower your sodium in this dish, you may want to remove your meat off of the bone after you've made your broth, or you can just use ham or turkey, any smoked meat, and then use chicken broth. But basically today we're going to be making our own broth, but the recipe will call for either one. Basically your ingredients will be 3.5 cups of water, 3 cups of broth, 3 to 4 ounces of any type of smoked meat, 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, a ½ pound of dry black-eyed peas. Make sure those are pre-soaked and clean them well. Peas can get dirty, and beans. Pre-soaking them will help with the quicken up the cooking time. So that's why you'd want to do that. If you don't have time to pre-soak them, you can always pick up 2 or 3 cans of pork and beans, or you can buy the frozen bags in the freezer section. 4 to 5 baby carrots, which is equivalent to 1 medium carrot diced up, and makes about a ½ cup. Half of onion diced, equivalent to ½ cup. 2 garlic cloves, or 1 teaspoon, is equivalent minced. ½ teaspoon of thyme is optional. 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper or Tabasco sauce, that's optional also. You can use a ½ teaspoon or more of light salt or regular salt, seasoning salt, whatever you like, depends. This is a lower sodium recipe I'm doing today. We need 1 bay leaf, 1/2 a fill of gumbo powder, which is optional as well. That'll help it kind of thicken up toward the end of the cooking process. 1 8-ounce can of diced tomatoes, or you can get any regular tomato in the produce and dice it up yourself. You do want to conserve all the juice that you can for that. A dash of Worcestershire Sauce, optional. 1 can of greens, any type of greens, or if you buy fresh greens, you only need about a ½ pound, so you can freeze the other ones. 1 tablespoon of olive oil, or 1 teaspoon of any other type of olive oil. We will be using olive oil today. And then 1 tablespoon of Parmesan cheese, fresh or grated or powder, and that's optional also. It's a very nutritious pot of soup. It's under 500 calories, and the calories content does include the cornbread preparation also. I'll be having this with a pot of soup and cornbread as the side, because you got veggies in there, you got meat, starches, fiber, all of that. So this is just going to be pretty much a 1-dish meal. But I do have to have my cornbread with any type of beans. If you don't want it, you'll save on the sodium that we'll get to at the end of the meal. I'll go over the nutritional content. So here we have it, Kim's Sahapan soup. We'll go ahead and get started because it is a lengthy recipe, lengthy video. It's going to take about 15-20 minutes or so for the video, and then we'll be done. We'll check it out. Okay, what we have here are the majority of our fresh ingredients that we're going to be using for the dish today. We have our onions and bell pepper here, which is about a ½ cup. The recipe calls for a ½ cup of each. You can do that if you want. I'm just going to use about a 1/4 cup of each in making this today, but it does call for about a ½ cup of each of those. I just don't feel like cutting up anymore, getting them ready for the processor. Also have our baby carrots here, celery. Forgot to mention the celery actually. And with that, you only need about ½ a stalk, which makes about a ½ cup of celery chopped up. And here we have a green hot pepper. I'm going to be using a hot pepper instead of Tabasco sauce or cayenne pepper. And then we have our 3.5 cups of what was water that is now turkey broth. These are turkey wings that I'm using, smoked turkey wings. And what I'm going to do is take the meat off of those. We've made the broth out of those in a crock pot. I pre-did that. The beans are pre-soaking, the black-eyed pea beans. And then we have our greens. I'm using a canned green, mustard green actually. And that there is, let's see how many, that's a can, 14.5 ounce can of greens. And then I had cooked some fresh greens not too long ago that we froze that has a little bit of smoked turkey meat in there also. So that's what that is. That's greens basically. So I'd say about 16, that's about 16 to 17 ounces of greens, but you only need 14.5. They're just kind of an additional veggie that's going to go in the dish, and all that's going to cook together. Our carrots and celery and pepper, we're going to put that in with the onions and the garlic and all that. We're going to put that in our food processor, and we'll be back here in a second and get it started. Now this is a process here of deboning this turkey. It's a wing. It's a little tough. Basically, it's a little tough to do if you haven't done it before, but the easiest way to do this, I would suggest, is just pulling this meat off the bone. If you've ever made pulled pork, you can just kind of pull it off once it's in that crock pot. You see how tender it is? Just pull it off the bone. Like such. And what I'm going to do is weigh this when I'm done. There's a piece with, if you notice pieces with gristles, make sure you get those out and set those to the side. As with little small bones. That's why I don't use turkey legs, because they have a lot of skinny, splintery bones in there. This skin right here, you can keep that if you want for beans, which is probably, matter of fact, I know what I will do, not a probably to it. Keep that for bean seasoning, very good. But you do have to account for the large amount of sodium. This bone is good for bean seasoning also, so that's going to go just for seasoning beans, which I will not be putting any smoked meat in when I do cook those. As you can see, this is pretty simple, just ripping it off the bone pretty much. And then we're just gonna chop it up. And you can chop it in whatever size pieces you want, but you do want to have about 3 or 4 ounces of meat to go in this 4 to 6 serving pot there. So you got excess skin and bone for beans later. And then we also have a turkey wing tip, and I will be adding that in. If you notice, this turkey wing didn't have a tip on it. I'll be adding that in. Actually, here it is. It was in the refrigerator. I'm going to add this wing tip in there right at the end when we add 2 of our ingredients at the end of the recipe, our tomatoes, and when we add our tomatoes, bay leaf, and filet gumbo powder, we're going to put this wing tip in there, and that's going to be added flavor, but we'll wait and do that at the end. So I'm going to chop this up, and we'll get our veggies sauteing here in a moment so we can get this thing underway. Okay, now what we're going to do here is just saute our vegetables, get them in there with the olive oil, a tablespoon of olive oil, or 1 teaspoon of any other type of oil. I'm going to put those down in there. See a lot of carrots, a pretty vibrant colors going on in there. We're done with that, and you're just going to saute these for a few minutes just until they get a little tender. You don't want them to be mushy or anything like that, so just saute those for a little bit. And when those are done, what we'll be doing next after that is we're going to be adding our peas and turkey in with our broth to this, because this is what we're going to cook it in right here. So once these are done, we'll go ahead and do that. And after I debone that turkey, I ended up getting up close to 8 ounces of turkey actually, which is pretty good. So that's what I ended up getting out of that one. Or it was 1 turkey wing. I ended up getting about 8 ounces pretty much. So I ended up just splitting that in half, and I will use the other part for beans or whatever, soup or something on another time with those bones for seasoning. Okay, so what we'll do is go ahead and add our peas and broth to this. And our cider vinegar also. Here's our three and a half cups of broth. That was made with those turkey wings. And then teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. I can pretty much estimate that. And that's going to be as a tenderizing agent in this. And then our peas. Can't forget about our peas. When you do your peas, make sure you drain those good and clean them good also, because a lot of times there's bad peas down in those bags, especially, or if you buy them in bulk. You don't always see the dirty ones, they're rotten ones in there, so try to clean those out. Okay, now we got that going. And what we have here is just our thyme. We're just going to put our thyme and a little bit of no salt. We're just going to put that in there. Those are the only two dry ingredients that I have, because I'm not doing the cayenne pepper. I'll mix that up. I'm not doing the cayenne pepper, or let's see, it was cayenne pepper. I think that was the only other dry seasoning that you could put in here. And then the Philly Gumbo powder, we put that in at the end. That's what we have over here with the bay leaf. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and add our turkey in there and our greens. We have our turkey. And our greens, we're just going to pour those in there. And it's quite a bit of greens, but that's alright. That's going to make that pot nice and hearty. Nice hearty pot. This is a very healthy and very hearty meal, actually. So you got greens in there, black-eyed peas. Let's see. Okay, got everything mixed up pretty good. And we're going to add our tomatoes in there. And like I say, this says 4 to 6 ounces, or 4 to 6 servings, but as you can see, depending on how much you want to eat at one time, there's peppers in there too, so however much you want to eat at one time will determine if there's more than 4 to 6 ounces, or I'm sorry, 4 to 6 cups. I keep wanting to say ounces. Okay, now this is at the last step where we added the tomatoes and the meat and the greens. We're going to go ahead and add a little bit of Worcestershire sauce in there. And mix that up. Boy, that smells good. Okay, and then after that, all we have left is our bay leaf. And then we can put that in there. And a bay leaf just tenderizes and adds flavor also. And then our Philly Gumbo powder. And then our wing. And here's the Philly Gumbo powder. It looks like thyme, so if you do use both of those, make sure you distinguish one from the other, because they do look alike if you put those on a plate. A lot of times I'll put spices when there's a variety. I'll put them out on a little paper plate and just dump them all in there, unless they have to go in a certain order, which this does call for a certain order. Okay, so now we're going to leave that alone. As you can see, there's quite a bit of greens in there, but that's alright. Okay, got that going, and it's coming up to a little simmer there, which is what we want. We don't want this boiling, technically. And keep in mind, you can also add the cayenne or the Tabasco sauce. You can always add liquid smoke to it also if you want, if you're using regular meat that's not smoked, but I do recommend using smoked meat for this. Okay, now we have our chicken turkey wing that we had. Just going to put that right there. Don't have to stir it up or anything. Just going to put it there and let it be. And we'll get this lid on here and go ahead and let that cook for, and you want to let it cook for, I'd say at least an hour. I'm going to let this simmer on very low for about 3 hours actually, because I want a lot of flavor in there. So we're going to let this baby just kind of simmer and get all those flavors soaked into everything. And we'll come back and check this out later. Now, in the meantime, I'm going to prepare some cornbread to go with this. And as I said, the nutritional facts that I'm about to give you include each 1 cup serving of this with a portionable size of cornbread, however you make your cornbread, Jiffy's, from scratch, whatever. Today I'm using the quick method, which is Jiffy. And what I'm going to do, this is just some Jiffy. You can make homemade cornbread if you want to, but I didn't feel like going through all that after that soup preparation. Let's see, make sure I got this on the right thing. There we go. Glad I changed that. Okay, so basically this is a Jiffy. I'm using egg beaters in it, and then milk. And then I'm also going to add some honey to it because I like sweet cornbread. And it's better to add honey to it than sugar. And this is about a good teaspoon if I measured it out. Basically, we'll whip this up. You want to make sure your cornbread gets all mixed in together. You don't want to have clumps in there, otherwise you're going to have powdery sections of your cornbread. Okay, usually only takes a few minutes. My mixing bowl used to spin, but it doesn't anymore. I've had this mixer about 25 years. And I just bought an addition for it actually last week to help me make my protein shakes a little easier. So it's an Oscar. It's a good brand of mixer to get. KitchenAid makes a really good one too. Okay. So it looks like it's a little runny, but that's all right. I might have added a little too much milk. But there you have it, your cornbread, and we'll go ahead and get that in the oven and come back, and those beans should be just about done to my liking. And we'll see you back in a minute. Okay, we're going to see what's going on with our soup now. Okay, smells great. Actually got the whole building unit I live in smells like someone's cooking something pretty good. Okay, it's coming along just fine. I actually wanted to get a little more done. Let's see how the black-eyed peas are. You can kind of test and see how well those are done. Still a little firm to cut through. Yeah, we'll let that cook probably about another hour. But the flavors and the aroma is just very poignant in the air. Nice pieces of turkey in there. Lots of greens. I'm a big green fan, so this will be more than enough. I'll eat off of this for a large portion of next week, I can anticipate just by looking at that. And it looks like there's going to be more than any 6 servings, but that's alright because I love leftovers. And the longer this sits, actually, if you eat it the day after you cook it, it actually tastes better. I'll try it for you today just as a sample to let you know what it tastes like today, but if I were to do this tomorrow, it would taste a lot better. So if you do want to cook this, say on a Friday night or a Saturday, and have it good, it'll be good for a Sunday dinner, even cooking it on Friday and then letting all those juices set in. When things like this get cold, the flavors lock in the black-eyed peas. The greens are flavored better. It's just an overall better dish. Some things I don't eat the same day I cook them. Chili I don't. Spaghetti a lot of times I don't. But any type of soup, beans or anything, I don't eat the same day ever when I cook them. Always a day or two after. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and try this. And to determine about how much is a cup, if you have a ladle, we keep a ladle, about 1.5 of a ladle is a cup. Okay. So we got that done. Boy, that looks good, and it smells. This flavor in the air is just like food. Just very daunting. Okay. Cornbread came out good, looks like. I like big pieces of cornbread. Hopefully that'll come up for me the way it's supposed to. Yep, just right. Okay. So we got our cornbread there. Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and test this out and see how it tastes. It looks good. We'll see how it tastes. And if you have little ones eating this, make sure you let it cool off very well before they eat this, because that juice will really put a hurting on you. Okay. Go ahead and get that. Try a little bit first. Very good. It's a little spicy. I think I used a pinch of pepper that I shouldn't have, but that's alright with the cornbread. It's evening the heat out a little bit. Nice chunk of turkey. Okay, for the most part, it is a success. I have had it a little better than this. I wouldn't suggest putting peppers in there unless you know if they're hot for sure, because this is a bit spicy, but I'll be able to handle it. So here you have it, Kim's Sahapan John soup. Enjoy. Okay. To the matter at hand, what everybody wants to know, well, what's in it? Well, basically, it's surprisingly very low calories. 385 in 1 cup, 209 if you don't eat any cornbread with it. The sodium is a little steep, 752 in a cup. That's with cornbread. Without the cornbread, it brings it down to 412. 31 cholesterol grams, 11 sugar, 4 saturated fat, 9 regular fat. No trans fatty fats in there at all. 18 grams of protein, so that's a nice chunk. I'm a meat eater, as you know, so that sits quite well with me. Good amount of potassium too. You need 3,500 milligrams or grams of potassium a day. Well, this dish alone offers you 654 just in 1 cup. 7 grams of fiber, and then carbs 56. And that's probably a majority of that is from the beans. So Kim's Sahapan John soup is very good. It also goes great over rice. So if you're a big rice fan, I like rice, but I'm not a rice lover per se. So if you're a rice fan, this goes good with rice. You can have the rice on the side also. That is 2 starches though, so you're going to increase your carbs and your fiber quite a bit in there. If I didn't mention, it has 7 grams of fiber. So we'll come back and check this out when it's done with that nice piece of moist yellow sweet cornbread on the side and see what it's hidden for. See you back later.